Testing 1, 2, 3. This will be the August 1st, 2018 City Council workshop meeting, followed by the regular meeting.
Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call the order of City Workshop, City of Satellite Beach, August 1st, 2018, approximately 6:50 p.m. And this is to interview the board applicant. So at this time, Lori, if you would please just go to the mic there. Thank you very much for applying for the board. You put down library board, correct? Great. If you would please tell us a little bit about yourself, background, and then what will happen is the council will ask questions. And like I explained to you, the agenda item later in the evening is to appoint to boards, okay? So tell us please a little bit about yourself.
I'm Lori Hayes. I moved into Satellite Beach in 1999. I've been working with libraries for the last...
Excuse me one second, sir. Do me a favor. Please put that over there for right now until she is done talking. Please do me a favor. During this part, just give her... We're going to take a break in this meeting, and you'll have plenty of time to put that there. Plenty of time. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I've been working in the libraries now for about 20 years. I've done almost everything that one does in a library. I'm not Emily. I work as a library assistant. Right now, I'm a processor at the Satellite Beach Library. I work with the children's books. I've always worked with children. I started working in the libraries when my daughter started school, in her school, and I've been working along with them when they went through school. And then I moved on over to the public library when they left for college.
Great. Thank you. Just for order of business, that portion of Loggerhead Island Drive is Satellite Beach? Thank you very much. Council, any questions you would like to?
I don't think you could be any more qualified to be on the board. So thank you for coming here and offering to volunteer your time, and the community appreciates it.
Well, thank you.
That's kind of what I would echo also. You know, we're a volunteer community. We're volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for stepping up and wanting to help us.
I don't have any, only because I've already talked to most everybody on the library board who have already told me about her coming and applying for it. So she comes highly recommended from those who know her and the people that work at the library. Again, they've all said great things about you, so I have no doubt in my mind that it would be a perfect fit for you. And again, thank you for volunteering to do that, and all the other volunteering work you've been doing for libraries over the years. Thank you very much.
Mark,
I just want to apologize to you for being late. I did have a chance to review your application. That looks wonderful, and I heard the last part of the question, so thank you for offering to be here.
any questions? I don't have one. I read it, and thank you very much. And again, it's an agenda item, and very much appreciate you applying. Okay, thank you. Any further business for the workshop? Nope. Hearing none, close that portion. We'll start the council. Everybody ready? Jim, you okay? Everybody? Yep. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order a regular meeting of the City Council of Satellite Beach, August 1st, 2018, approximately 7 p.m. Please join Councilman Breimer for a moment of silence and the pledge.
Everybody would please rise for a moment of silence. Thank you. If you join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 3, citizens' comments. If you're here concerning the testing of the well and that information, you'll have an opportunity to speak under the city manager's report. Okay? So it will be under the city manager's report. So at this time, citizens' comments are open. I first take residents who live in the city of Satellite Beach, and then I will take anybody else. For non-agenda items, mic is open.
Good evening, Council and Mr. Mayor. Dale Abrams, Ocean Street, I attended the meeting that you had on Tuesday. It went well. You had a large crowd of people. My only request is, can we get the mics under control? Okay? We could hear you, Mr. Mayor, and City Manager, but we could not hear any of the residents. So I know at one point I went to a meeting where we were supposed to buy the best and the greatest, and there was another council member here at that time, and we've had issues there because I watched the YouTube videos. So for those of us, and I don't think I'm hearing impaired, okay, by any means, but it is challenging to want to hear what the people have to say. If you don't have the right equipment, then, you know, I think that's not a good thing. So maybe we can fix that as far as that's concerned. And there's one other thing I was doing some research on today. And as you know, I haven't been here all the time, but I wanted to know where we got the money to purchase the property on Jackson Avenue, which is next to the post office. I believe we spent 40,000 on that, as far as that's concerned, and I was curious to know where the money came from pertaining to that, and I believe that's where you're proposing to put a new fire station, if I'm correct on that. It is 770. That's what we paid for it. We purchased that in December of 17. So I was curious about that, because I know we took a big loss on the Peg Lakes property, so maybe we can get some of that information. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike's still open? For non-agenda items? Hearing no further... Pardon me? Yes, I said the mic is open for non-agenda items.
Sandra Can, South Patrick. In response to the city's presentation last week from the information presented on the sewage, I calculated the capacity of South Beach's plant to be 93%. It explains why we have so many dumps for years. Mr. Helmer is quoted as saying we're near capacity in Florida today as well. At 93%, there is no concurrency for development because we use 286 gallons per day. So there was calculation error according to Jim Helmer. So 126 ERUs, not 2,733. Irrespective, the capacity, the spare capacity is not there because when we have heavy rain, the plant goes over capacity with stormwater and infiltration. So I'm concerned about more dumping in the Indian River Lagoon. We just had another dump in Titusville. And the peer review studies coming in says the Indian River Lagoon is dying. So we need to come up with a solution. So I did some research. And I learned that there is an existing sewage pipe that served the old base housing, and that the plans, as you guys pointed out in your meeting, is that Cocoa Beach is going to serve the PUD3. So I've been making some emails because that pipe runs right past South Patrick Shores. So I wanted to put forth an idea that we tie in the sewage from South Patrick Shores into the Cocoa Beach, if the city would be amenable, not city, but the county and Cocoa Beach be amenable to that, take some of the load off of the South Beaches plant, and that clears some gives you guys some breathing room for development for Oceana and some other developments, because right now, Oceana should not have even gotten concurrency for a building permit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, first off, too, if you don't have,
We received those concurrency numbers directly from the county utility, so I think any questions about the county utility capacity needs to be directed to the county utility.
Alexander, South Patrick Shores, dual enrolled 13-year-old, researching environmental solutions to toxic algae. I'm speaking because I am concerned with the sewage dumps that have been going on for decades. It does not matter that the EPA allows us for 90 wet days of the year. It is our responsibility to be stewards of the environment. Because, one, the IRL is the most diverse lagoon in North America at 2,500 species. According to a recent peer-reviewed studies, the lagoon is dying, and according to a study just released by FAU-OURI, the main culprit is sewage dumping. The lack of action to suspend development until capacity is resolved is further putting at risk the IRL when we have a rain event. The loss of a healthy lagoon will mean the loss of $4 billion of revenue to the local economy from tourism alone. If we preserve the IRL, then the continued long-term possibility of the economy is preserved. Short-term income from development is irresponsible and short-sighted. It is time for a change to sustainability, meaning that we take action now and stop the dumping in the lagoon, and support the lagoon in interest of long-term prosperity by understanding there is a direct correlation between lagoon health, beach health, and economic health. With tourism crippled, the economy will be crippled in a similar way. If the Indian River Lagoon dies, the economy dies. Thank you for listening.
Son, very, very nice. Thank you.
You good?
Very good.
Amelia, South Patrick Shores. Because of our problems of the IRL, I have chosen to pursue marine biology, and I've learned that Lake Okeechobee is now having dumpings too. Fish kills, dead manatees, and beached whales and dolphins have made me want to step up. If we don't change our priority for the environment, it will not be if the dumpings will happen, it will be when. Thank you for listening, and please help me save the environment.
Thank you. Mic is still open? There are no further. Close it. Thank you very much. A little insight on the NEP, National Estuary Program. There's 7 of them in Florida. For ours being the Indian River Lagoon system, there will be, most likely in September, we're looking at the zoo. They're going to have a public, an NEP, who is the main coordinating hub for the Indian River Lagoon. They're going to have a public hearing. They're going to tell you what's going on, what they've been doing, and try to connect all the counties, since there's approximately 5 counties involved in it. And Dwayne DeFries is the gentleman who heads the NEP here. I sit as the chair to the Citizens Advisory Board. But the program should be very interesting to you. The plan they have from both the county and the NEP is very interesting. So I think it'd be worthwhile. It will be a noticed meeting, and I think it'd be very good for you, and very good jobs to both of you. At this time, City Council comments?
I have none.
Same.
None.
I asked Lenore to put a copy of this for all of us. This is Janet Petro. She's been selected, and she's going to be inducted into the Florida Women's Hall of Fame. We also have Scotty Culp, who was inducted into the Florida Women's Hall of Fame. And while we named our municipal complex after Scotty, we never really did a proclamation, from the city honoring her. So I think what I'm asking council is, Janet grew up in Satellite Beach. She graduated from Satellite High School. She lives in Indian Harbor Beach, but I think it's fitting to do a proclamation for both Scotty and Janet, and I just wanted to get council's approval to move forward with that.
That's a consensus? Sure.
Yeah.
Great. Please.
Would you like us to share that with Indian Harbor Beach so they could also do one for
I,
her?
you know,
Since she
I
lives
know
in-
that we've
lives in
done, we've done some things
Yeah.
with Indian Harbor Beach. I'm not adverse to that at all. I think it would be fitting. Also, I attended the monthly business meeting at Whiskey Pub. I thought that was the first time I'd ever gone to that, and it was really a pretty neat endeavor. I attended General Monteith's awards presentation, and we presented him with the Space Coast League of Cities plaque picture that we did and a resolution honoring him, and that was very well received. And I also attended the workshop last Tuesday night, and I just want to commend staff and the mayor. Staff for putting it together, and Courtney and the mayor did a great job of articulating the things that are going on in our community and why we are where we are at this point in time. So, thank you.
Thank you. I also attended the General's Award Ceremony and the City Workshop. Another meeting I attended with the city manager was with FDOT, and what it was concerning is the paving of A1A and the crosswalks. Got a lot of calls on so-called safety crosswalks out there. I think we've been assured dealing with them is an interesting endeavor. I think it was our fourth meeting. Either we've traveled there or they've traveled here concerning it. And I walked away from that meeting with a better hope that we will have flashing lights at those crossovers on A1A. So that's the latest from them on that. So hopefully they come through, correct?
Yeah, the District 5 Secretary did email me the
Email you?
schedule. Yeah.
Great. So they're not open yet, they're not finished yet, but they will be, and they will have flashing lights on them. Okay, so any further council comments?
On that one, Mayor, do you know, they put one of those up in Cocoa Beach, up in that split area. They got it all marked off with cones and everything right now, but do you know, are they going to put lights at that one by chance up in Cocoa Beach?
I don't know.
Or is it just going to stay that way?
We fought for this with them because the original plans.
Right.
There's 9 of them total from here to Indialantic? The
Yeah,
crossing, was that the number?
we have 6, and they were adding more in the Indian Harbor Beach and Indian Atlantic area. And so from their perspective, they're trying to look at the roadway as a whole. But from our perspective, we were like, we were of the opinion you need to get the lights in fast because we're concerned about safety. So they are putting in the lights, but they and they're going to do it down the entire roadway. So it's not just in our city.
Any further? Okay. At this time, move on to agenda item 5, City Attorney's Report. Jim?
I don't have anything.
Thank you. This time, council's permission, I'd like to take agenda item 8 and move it to take this right now.
That's fine.
Fine. Discuss, take action on ordinance number 1163. Jim?
Ordinance number 1163, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, amending ordinance numbers 1005 and 1017, allowing a conditional use for a congregate living facility for property located at 500/510, 520/522, and 530/532 Lee Avenue, and 505/515, 517/525, and 527/535 Jackson Avenue, described as O'Galley Shores lots 14 through 21, 24 and 25, block 20, zoned RM1 by increasing the number of authorized residents for 3 of the buildings, eliminating the non-assignability limitation on change in ownership, eliminating limitation on allowing residents with mental deficits, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. It's the first reading of ordinance number 1163.
Thank you. John?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Essentially, what they're trying to do is increase their bed capacity from 8 to 9, and the way that they're going about that is each one of those townhomes, well, not townhomes, duplexes have been modified into one unit so they could better utilize the space by having a single kitchen. And with that said, they were 2-bedroom, 2 baths, and they each had 1-car garage. So those garages, because primarily the residents don't drive. So the garages were used for incidental storage, they were used as an office space for staff, and just other various types of uses, a game room for the residents. What they would like to try to do is to modify one of those garages and turn it into an additional bedroom, essentially, a private suite. They went to the Board of Adjustment on July 2nd to get a variance from the requirements for garages. They recommended for approval. The Planning and Zoning Board, they recommended on July 23rd the same thing, to recommend the amendments to the conditional use. And that's basically what they're trying to do. I have Kale and Cheryl Stockstill here tonight, the applicants, if you have any questions for them.
Thank you. Any?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 1163 on first reading.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Primer, second by Councilman Osmer. Discussion?
I think they've been a great asset to the community, and they've worked with us very well since they've been there. I think there were some concerns initially when they came in, and we didn't really know what was going to be there, but I think they've done a great job. So.
Thank you. And also, I think, too, it went through the process.
Yep.
And we've got boards that it's been through, gave us the recommendation and so forth, so I know it's been looked at by staff.
It was added at a time when that was kind of new as a concept for the community, with aging in place and all that sort of thing. So it's turned out to be a real good fit, in my opinion.
Right. Okay, thank you all. At this time, open up for public comment on agenda item 8.
Dale Abrams, Ocean Street. Are these folks regulated like nursing homes where the governor came out and said that everybody's got to have generators because of storm issues?
Yes.
Are they regulated like that, so they have to have those?
Yes.
Okay.
They're under ACA. They're governed by ACA.
Yeah, they actually have a plan in place to meet that requirement.
Okay, and I'm assuming that they have sprinkler systems throughout the facility, including the garage.
They'll be required to.
This requirement for sprinklers is part of their plan for increasing their bed capacity. So yes, they have already coordinated with the fire department to install sprinkler systems, and that is part of their plan.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Doug Evans, Sheridan Avenue. My grandfather's been at Ocean Breeze for a little over 4 years now. I have nothing but positive things to say about Ocean Breeze, about Calais, his staff. Do a wonderful job. When hurricane times come, I have to go to work. They take care of my grandfather, transport him, do everything, take him to medical appointments if I can't make it. So great work going on over there. I'm also a Brevard County firefighter. My guys down at Station 62 run the ambulance out of there. Haven't heard anything but positive things from them as well. And we run a lot of nursing homes, ALFs, and they're not all that good. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
Good to know. Julianne.
Still open?
Beth Aaron, 635 South Hedgecock. My mother is at the facility too, and it is a wonderful place. They are amazing to the residents there, and I hope that you all support them.
Thank you. Any further?
Hi, Deborah Buchanan Stone. My mother also is there. A lot of you may know her, Marjorie Alderson. She was a bus driver here in Satellite for 25 years and a crossing guard. So she's 92 now, and she is at Ocean Breeze Gardens, which I can attest. I went to 14 different facilities, and they are magnificent. And it's a struggle financially, and Calais has been wonderful, and I fully support them adding more units because that helps keep the costs down. And that was the one thing my mother wanted more than anything, is to stay in Satellite Beach. So it's highly necessary. And I don't know, have they addressed the memory part yet?
No, I mean, that's one
Is that
of the
later?
conditions that they're looking to have removed.
Should I say now or later?
You got 3 minutes.
You got 3 minutes, so
Okay.
the buzzer goes off. Got it.
Okay, well, the other thing is, as you know, as people age, memory is an issue even for me, but she is fine, but I know her mother had gone through Alzheimer's, and currently, the worst thing that could happen to her is to be forced to leave Satellite Beach. And, you know, I've heard a lot of issues about memory care and worried people are going to be wandering the streets. And really, the memory care units are the most secure units of all of the ALFs and nursing homes because they keep them, you know, locked behind doors because they don't want them wandering. So I highly encourage you. We moved here in 1961 from Michigan, so we are longtime residents, and this is a necessary thing, especially with the population that's happening in Satellite Beach aging. So we'd all like to age gracefully and remain in Satellite. Thank you.
Thank you. Further? Hearing none? Bring it back to council. Any further from council?
I think we all want to age here, too.
Yeah.
It's kind of the idea.
No further? Lenore?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we're going to go back to the city manager's report. This is, during her report will be the time we will handle the information from the water testing. We'll open up for public comment. She will tell you everything we know to this point. Okay, Courtney?
Thank you, Mayor. Our annual 4-hour ethics training for public officials will be held on Wednesday, August 8th, starting at 12:30 p.m. and will be conducted by Attorney Cliff Shepard at the Pelican Beach Clubhouse. This training is getting popular. I think we had, Lenore, 38 people already signed up for it. Just make sure you put that on your calendar so that way you don't have to do the webinar. Okay. I received a memo from Rochelle Lawendale stating that ordinance number 1160 has been tabled by the Planning Advisory Board until August and will be scheduled to be presented before council in September. Okay. I received a letter from Rockledge Department of Public Safety thanking Interim Fire Chief Dave Abernathy for his help with their promotional assessment process. And below we have, or in your packet, you'll have a list of town hall meeting dates and locations. We'll be preparing that in the next couple weeks. The first one is August 9th at 6:30 at Montecito Clubhouse, and we'll be discussing infrastructure, the budget, and sustainability initiatives. Okay. A letter also went out to each of our residents on that. On Friday, August 17th, is the Citizens Oversight Committee for the Lagoon Tax that's held at the Brevard County Vieira Government Center in the Florida Room. And I believe at that meeting, we will be getting a presentation on the idea of an inlet. And I know that's an idea that many people are interested in. So if you can't make that meeting, those meetings are televised, and you can go to the website and watch the meetings from the website. So with that, I'm going to invite Matt Shelton to the podium, and wherever you want. And he's going to go over the test results that we have received.
Thank you. So the City of Satellite Beach asked Tetra Tech to install 3 monitoring wells and collect samples for PFAS, including PFOA and PFOS. So let's take a quick minute to explain what that is. PFAS, that's per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. These are manufactured chemicals, not natural chemicals. It's a class of chemicals. PFOA is perfluorooctanoic acid. That's one particular compound within that class, and US EPA has established a health advisory level for that particular compound. PFOS is another compound that we'll be talking about. That's perfluorooctane sulfonate. That is another specific compound within the class of PFAS. And again, US EPA has established a health advisory level for that compound. So we're going to focus on those 2 compounds, but I'll go talk in general about PFAS as well. As I said, they're manufactured compounds, and they're widely used to make products resistant to stains from oil, water, and grease. And they're emerging contaminants of concern. The compounds are found in everyday products such as nonstick pans, Post-it notes, food packages, and it's also widely used in fire suppression foams. So we initiated our sampling activities on July 17th, 2018. We installed 3 monitoring wells in locations that were selected by the city. And you can see the figure up here shows those 3 locations as well as the sampling results. 2 locations were on the City of Satellite Beach property. Monitoring well SB1 is here at City Hall, right outside the next building over to the west. SB2 is on Jackson Avenue in Delara Court, and SB3 is on Brevard County Parks property at Sea Park. So groundwater from these wells was sampled using DEP standard operating procedures. We also applied Tetra Tech standard operating procedures for PFAS contaminants. These chemicals are everywhere that you have, as I said, water-resistant and chemical-resistant clothing or chemical-resistant materials. So we have specific procedures in place to avoid pens, write-in-the-rain notebooks, Teflon sampling equipment, things that are typically used on normal groundwater sampling we're not going to be using when we sample PFAS. Bug sprays, sunscreens, and synthetic and wick-away type clothing are also avoided when we sample for these compounds. So as you see on the map up there, we have the results of the sampling and the highest concentrations. And again, I'm going to look at PFOA and PFOS compounds because those are the compounds that EPA has provided health advisories on. So the highest concentrations were observed here in the City Hall property at SB1. PFOA was detected at 0.0119 micrograms per liter, which is below the 0.07 microgram per liter US EPA health advisory. PFOS was detected at 0.0296 micrograms per liter, which is again below the 0.07 microgram per liter health advisory. Those health advisories, if you read through them, they state that if both PFOS and PFOA are present, you should add the 2 together and apply that 0.07 standard to both combined. And when you do that for SB1, the result is 0.0415 micrograms per liter, again below the 0.07 microgram per liter US EPA health advisory. The next highest concentration was at SW3 in Sea Park. The combined PFOA and PFOS concentration was 0.03013 micrograms per liter, again below the 0.07 health advisory. SB2 was the lowest concentration of the 3 wells, and again the combined concentration was detected at 0.02285 micrograms per liter, again below the 0.07 health advisory. So we're comparing these results to that US EPA health advisory. There was one published for PFOA, one published for PFOS, both in May of 2016. They're about 100 pages each, and they go into great detail on where those numbers came from. In November 2016, US EPA provided additional clarification, and the purpose of that was to state that the purpose of the health advisory was to, and I quote, identify the concentration of PFOA and PFOS in drinking water at which adverse health effects are not anticipated to occur over a lifetime, unquote. These are drinking water health advisories, so for that pathway, we're looking at health effects through the drinking water pathway. They're not intended to be used for any other exposure scenario. So these wells that were installed are monitoring wells in the groundwater, but the drinking water supply for the city of Satellite Beach is not from this area. So I just wanted to stress that. And that's the report.
Courtney, you had some other...
I wanted to ask you, and you might not be able to answer this question, but there was another standard that came out of the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, and some of my residents put that on our Facebook post. Do you know anything about that standard and why EPA didn't use it?
The ATSDR standard that I've seen is the same one. I believe the ATSDR referenced the US EPA documents. There have been several documents and standards throughout time.
Okay.
2016 is the most current US EPA standard. Several states have put out standard, and the state of Florida is set to put out standards in the coming days. So we might see a health advisory from the state of Florida here in the next week or so.
Okay. That's great news, because
As for the ATSDR standard, I don't know specifically which number you're looking at.
To me, it was 11 and 7, so it would be 18 combined, I guess.
Is there a date
parts
for
per
that
trillion.
report that you have?
It was recently, 2018. I'll hand it to you.
Okay.
And, because I think what I'd like to do, here it is when we get to the, that we're trying to schedule a meeting in September with FDEP and the Department of Health to come and answer the questions of the community. And I would like to make sure that we address the standard issue, because I think that's their frustration, is nobody really knows what's safe and what isn't when you're looking at the research. Yeah.
Well, and
That's
they
my
all have their own
frustration, I could say.
assumptions, and you need to look at
Yeah.
them in detail to really understand them. This one I need to look at in
Okay.
detail to understand.
All right, I appreciate that, thank you.
Mark,
Okay, just one question, Matt. Just based on the research that we know, when you combine the PFOA and the PFOS together, we are still, because I think this is what I heard you say, is that we are still under the health advisory level alert. Is that correct?
It's used for drinking water, yes.
In all instances that you looked at, in all?
In the
in
three wells that were
three-
sampled, for those compounds combined, the results were below that .07 health advisory.
Okay, thank you, sir. That's all my question I have.
And this comes in a lot of different ways, right? Sunblock, a lot of different avenues this is in, correct?
It's very widely used. Bug spray, sunblock, as you said, Post-it notes, Teflon pans,
Fire extinguisher stuff and
fire
gas.
foam, yeah. As I said, mainly anything that is designed to resist water or oil likely has these compounds in it.
The other question I had, which I thought was pretty good one, was if we didn't have a possible influence with Patrick Air Force Base, moving, for example, if we tested over in Vieira, for example, would we find these chemicals in there because of that use that you're talking about?
Potentially. I don't have that data, so I can't
Okay.
comment on what would be there, but the
Do you know
potential
of
is there.
anybody else that has tested that that we could compare that to for our residents?
I don't have any
Okay.
data outside of the military bases that you
Understood.
presented earlier.
So Courtney, obviously we got the information. It's below the level, but it's still there.
Correct.
So where do we go? What's a suggestion from here? Because there's not a lot of data on this. This is the first data we've gotten. So now we need to take this data and Florida Department of Environment.
Right, they've
Are we going to
received
try to
the
get
test.
They've received it?
They received the test. They're waiting on the school board and the county's test. And then we will be circling back. They're going to get me a date that they can come to present to our community and answer questions. And so we're going to be trying to schedule our own meeting with the community that the city would be sponsoring with the Department of Health and FDEP there to answer these questions that the community has.
All right.
Just to follow up on that, I'm not so sure it's a Department of Health issue. It seems to be out of their range. To me, it seems like it's more of a Florida EPA issue than anything else. I can't see how the Department of Health could really help with this because they just...
Well, we have, I have a meeting tomorrow with them, a conference call with them, but largely we're trying to help some of the residents pull together data. And so we're kind of being an advocate that way. So that's kind of what we're hoping that they'll be there to do that, to answer their questions on what's the process of this cluster research, and just kind of give them that, that avenue or that connection to the Department of Health.
And like I said, I think it's good to include them. I just don't think that they can really be of any help.
Not from a
because it's really-
remediation standpoint.
It's really beyond their scope.
Correct, yeah.
Also data is important. This is the first data we've gotten on this. So would it be helpful to go to the county and say, listen, we drilled a well for you out of our city because we cared about finding out the information for the residents in the area. Maybe they drill one in Vieira and other places, just so you get, if we're finding it in many more places, did the Air Force Base contribute? Yes, maybe. But maybe has become such a part of our everyday existence. Teflon pans, all this other stuff that, waterproofing.
They're testing existing wells, and they were constructed with a Teflon O-ring, which is common, so they know that there will be a a portion of that as a false positive. So to handle that, they did a control test in Melbourne Beach.
Okay.
So we will have Melbourne Beach's data.
Can we ask county to do one directly across from Patrick, being Vieira or something like that, just so we kind of get data? Because if we're finding it in every well throughout many cities in the county, then there might be, it could be a whole different issue. Maybe here it is somewhat of Patrick Air Force Base. If it's in Vieira or some other area that doesn't have as close contact, that, you know, it's what we've been doing in our environment for all these years and things we use that we had no idea that this is what would happen. But unless we have data supporting around the area, this is going to be tough.
We're meeting with them tomorrow, so we can pose that question.
Great, thank you.
I have a quick question for you. You dealt with the testing on the bases. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. My quick question, so you dealt with the testing on the base, and do you know what processes they're going through right now, dealing with the numbers that they have, which were obviously significantly higher than ours by tenfold? Do we have any idea what they're doing at this point to deal with that?
I've not personally dealt with the testing at Patrick Air Force Base.
Okay.
I've been involved in projects at other bases.
Okay,
but
sorry, I assumed that you meant,
Not the particular
okay.
project you're referring to.
We are meeting
You're
with
meeting
them tomorrow.
Okay. So we're meeting with the base tomorrow, and, you know, as we meet, we'll be able to collect more and more information. This is not something we're trying to hide information or do anything. We're in the fact-finding just as you want information. We definitely want information, so we know how to handle this issue. And so I know the amount of meetings just in the last day that has come about since we've got the report. You know, we're going to make every effort to get you every bit of information we can and how we're going to handle it. So, any other thing to add, Courtney, before I open up for public? If you would, please.
Sure. I just have one thing real quick. The report, just so you know, we have a written report that's currently in review.
Okay.
The data just came in yesterday, so there is more information coming to you.
Great. If you would, probably to make it easier, maybe you would sit there just in case there's questions that needs to be answered. You have a mic right there.
And I just want to clarify that this is brand-new territory for the city, so, you know, we don't know a lot yet. We're in the process of trying to find all that out. You know, so I'm probably not going to be able to answer a lot, but we're going to try if we can.
Okay. So I'm going to first take citizens that live within this Satellite Beach city. Have to live in the city to start. The mic is open.
Dale Abrams, Ocean Street. Is there any way that we could have someone from Patrick Air Force Base to this meeting that you're talking about putting together in the future?
We're going to try.
And Patrick Air Force Base, do we have the report of what they did? Because they've got some issues, according to this article that was put out there by Dr. Julie. And I don't know if maybe it's on the Military Times piece that's out there. Is that there? Yeah, and they do have
That's the Department of Defense.
Yeah, they do have some issues there. So, you know, my concern is that where's the accountability here? Okay? And I just kind of glanced today on the computer that they had a similar issue out in Colorado at an Air Force base pertaining to, I think, this. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, because you said you've done other military bases. And I got to go back and take a look at it, but I just glanced at it. But somebody needs to be held accountable. And then I guess the next question is, what does it do to the community, to the PR, to property values? You know, how is that all impacted? Do a Google search, okay? I mean, I know for a fact there's people that have been looking at properties down here that live in Chicago, and they're seeing things on the Google search that they're kind of asking questions. I mean, you know, yeah, everybody the beach is wonderful, but, you know, when they hear these things, it does have an impact as far as that's concerned, and it's not a positive one, okay? So, you know, this is a big deal. It is. And I hope that the group that's involved in the cancer cluster, I think they're working really hard to get data put together, and that's the most important thing, is collecting data. As far as the health department, I agree with you, Councilman Breimer. I was there. I didn't know something. I learned this. They deal with septic tanks. Did you know that? Okay. They really don't do a lot, but this is where Dr. Julie has been directing people to go to regarding their concerns. Okay, so to collect the database, so that's the purpose of that.
Thank you for your input. I can assure you, we're as concerned about it as everyone in the audience. We just got the data. We need to be able to take this data, get the parties together, and we need to be smart about it. We just can't go to places without and ask for things that we don't have data to support it. We're going to be laughed out. So when the report came in, the city manager called me and said, I got it. My question was, how do we handle it? So I can tell you from the very beginning, part of the process, those questions you asked have definitely been brought up and written down, and we're going to be working through this. As we gain information, it's going to be available. The podium's still open for Satellite Beach, people within the boundary of Satellite Beach, city limits.
Property
Oh, yes, sir, I'll get to you. Go ahead, sir.
No.
Yes, and then I'll take this gentleman, that's fine.
Hi, Alex Rudloff, 65 Barcelona Court. If you look internationally, not just nationally, you see that the trend on the safety standards is going down. Right now, the EPA standard is 70 parts per trillion, but that's likely not to remain so. Recently, there was $7 million approved by Congress to formally study this at a national level by the CDC, presumably by the CDC. There's been some discussion of allowing the National Guard to participate in cleanup efforts on various Air Force bases. I think a lot of discussion about this nationally, basically. So I'd like to suggest that you guys reach out to Posey's office to at least put it on their radar. I know it's way too soon for any of that. We got a lot more data to collect, and we got to know a lot more before we act on this. But I want to thank you guys for doing that and being partners in this. And then the one question I had specifically, you mentioned we did some testing at Marble Beach, where the county did. Do you know when those results will be back?
Friday.
Friday? So they'll be available August?
They think, and that's the thing, is, we wait on labs, so they say Friday, and then if they have a hiccup, then, it's later, but they're expecting on Friday.
Okay.
But I wanted to let you know is that we did send our results to our delegation. So we sent it to Senator Mayfield's office and so on.
Follow-up question, or more of a suggestion at the August 5th meeting, if you could provide resources or some sort of direction to homeowners who might want to have their own testing done, that might help increase the number of data points.
Based on your call to me, we're putting that together. So that'll be passed out to people. We're trying to provide the name of the lab, address, the contact information, and the cost, so people can make that decision on their own.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Alex, very much. Sir, if you'd like.
Just a quick comment. I'm not even here for this. It was interesting. Did I understand that the standards that you're talking about
Sir, yes, please state your name.
Steve Mosman, I have property at 951 Highway,
Thank you.
A1A in Satellite Beach. Did I understand that the standard you're talking about is drinking water, lifetime exposure, 7 parts per trillion, or whatever that was?
107 micrograms per liter, yes.
Okay. I would contend that that makes that number totally irrelevant to well water sampling. I mean, nobody is drinking well water in Satellite Beach over the course of a lifetime. I mean, this is not something to get excited about. I've heard many times in my career, and I have a master's degree in chem engineering, a PhD in physics, I have some healthcare background. Everything is measurable. You've got techniques, electron capture gas, chromatograph, chromatography, other things that will measure things to parts per trillion easily. The fact that it's there, the fact that a substance has a carcinogenic effect, there's no cause and effect if you're not exposed to it at the levels that they're talking about. I would contend that a lifetime exposure to drinking water is like 1,000,000 times more than you're going to get sprinkling your yard or something with well water. I would just say we ought to look at standards that apply to the same thing that you're using. And measure your drinking water. You'll find that it's probably 0. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Public comment for citizens now. Citizen? Let me just make sure we have inside first, and then, okay, all citizens have spoke? Okay, ma'am?
Jessica Bolton, South Patrick, Flamingo Drive. In regards to your discussion involving collecting data, does the city have any plans to test vegetation? And by that is, and why I ask that specifically, is vegetation oftentimes has the propensity to concentrate, whether it's minerals or chemicals. So my query is as we all have mango trees, we all have citrus trees, our kids are eating this vegetation, our animals are, eating the vegetation within our yards and such. Does the city have any intentions of testing any of the vegetation? Is it safe for us to eat our fruits and vegetables?
It's a great question, and that's the kind of questions that we want to answer in the next month, because we don't know. We don't know what type of testing we need to do in the future, and we don't know what the impacts are. Like, I understand that there's a drinking water standard, but I think the previous speaker is correct that the standards are going down every time I look at a different one.
And that's the thing, is we've all discussed that there's a different correlation between different data points, and how there's now conflict between whether it's the EPA of which states of allowing which volumes. So my query
those
is
are the things that we need to answer in the next month.
And as we are looking at this cancer cluster, is it because of our mango smoothies?
Right.
So
I also think, so we don't, we want to make sure that we research it all the way through and don't dismiss, parts of it, because, those are good questions. We don't know. There is no standard for groundwater. We have a lot of residents that don't just sprinkle their lawn.
Correct.
They water their organic gardens and eat the food. So those are some of the concerns I've heard from the community. And then I have residents that fill their pools with the water.
I have chickens that drink sprinkler water.
I have a
and
large
eat
tortoise
it.
in the backyard who loves my grass. So again, as most of us residents have wells, that is something that if we could please put on the agenda for testing all our vegetation, would be lovely.
We'll look at it, definitely.
Thank you very much for your time.
Dr. Berman?
The one thing I wanted to ask Matt, just regarding that question, can you tell us what this chemical uptake is with plants in general? Is it transferable in the manner that she's speaking about?
There is data that there is bioaccumulation of the compounds, but these are emerging compounds, and there's a lot unknown about it.
Not a whole
And
lot
one
of
of the studies that ATSCR is doing is looking at the uptake in food.
Okay, but as of right now, there's not a whole lot of information, is what you're basically...
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, that's
These are
kind of
emerging
okay.
compounds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mic is still open for residents or non.
Sandra Can, South Patrick Shores. My sister's in the military, and she works on the same kind of aircraft that's at Patrick Air Force Base. She's a cancer survivor, and many of her coworkers are cancer survivors working on those aircraft. So, maybe there's something specific to do with I'm Canadian as well. They're called Auroras in Canada. I think they're called C-1 something here. But anyway, I also wanted to mention the person I purchased my property from was a longtime resident, and he told me when I purchased the property that there was a naval base or a naval dump in the location of where the houses were, and I have noticed over the years doing my organic gardening and digging that the most peculiar things are in the ground that I've dug up. So there seems to lend substance to that. So I was wondering if there's any credence to that information, and then what would be the area of that dump area, and whether that might play a part.
I'll tell you what little I know. Yes, it was a naval station. It was called Banana River Naval Station. It was a seaplane base. A lot of this stuff came about when they were putting the extension in Pineda Causeway. And when they were digging there, Pineda Causeway, there, some of the backyards of some of the residents that back right up to the road itself is when they started finding barrels and stuff of that nature. There was a report on it years ago, or mid-90s, I think is the report, if my memory serves me, on it. But I think we'll learn a lot tomorrow, too, also, with Courtney having the meeting with the military tomorrow, and I guarantee the questions are going to be answered. Ask, hopefully we get the answers from them. So that's what I know about it, that yes, people did find garbage back there.
Some of the residents have sent me information that there was or was considered a Superfund site for that area. So those are the questions that I have on a list for FDEP when I meet with them. So every time somebody posts some question on Facebook or anything like that, I'm writing it down so I can hand it over to them.
Mike still open? Hearing no further? Okay. Everyone, thank you. Again, I promise you this isn't anyway the end. There'll be a lot of meetings, a lot of information. So the meeting that is scheduled for the 5th of August is not a meeting that the city put together. We helped out the doctor securing a location to do it. My city manager has spent a lot of time helping the doc, helping her a little bit with putting the program together, but it's not a city event. We are going to be there. Courtney will be there presenting the information she has. In September, or that date when we do a city meeting, we will notify everybody. We'll notify you in plenty of time.
And we're trying to work with the county to do the notifications for South Patrick Shores.
So, first, thank you for caring enough to come. Thank you for your input. We're going to ask the questions. Again, what answers they give us, we can't tell you at this point, but if you would, please, the resource is good. You call the city hall, ask Julie, ask them, here's a question you have, and they'll do absolutely their best to answer it for you. Okay? Courtney, any further comment? Thank you very much. Okay. We're going on to agenda item 7. Gentlemen, before I start the other item, are you finished, please?
Thank you, Mayor.
No problem.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
I just have a conference call with them. Nobody ever wants to stay for the budget stuff.
We do have a budget meeting.
The meeting? Thank you. At this time, we're going to move on to agenda item 7, discuss, take action on the beautification board's recommendation.
Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm Kay Carsto. I am recently been appointed chair of the beautification board, and as soon as I kind of took the position, I kind of thought we haven't really revamped this since I think it began. So I work with vice mayor and with city manager and of course the board to kind of revamp it, and I was just hoping that we could get approval as far as our new beautification board mission statement and duties. They kind of are more in line with the sustainability board. We're kind of hoping to work in tandem with them and be more productive. We're going to continue with the lagoon-friendly yards and vegetation issues, but we want to expand well beyond that, our volunteer efforts. So we're hoping to expand, education, stewardship, volunteerism, and beautifying the city. We have some really great ideas, and I'm hoping we can get some more board members too. We've had quite a few members that had to resign because of illness. So.
Question on that. How many are you down? I don't remember
We are
seeing.
down to 3.
Oh, you have 3 members is all?
3 members.
All right. Lenore, on that, can you get us to count on that and see if we have any,
We have no applicants.
no applicants?
Well, and we put in the Beachcaster?
Yep, let's Beachcaster it, and also, as a board, if you would, please, spread the word among your friends and so forth, and ask them to come in to fill out And Nick, you too, on the thing with like community garden, all that stuff, please.
Yeah, we have plans for that. We're
One of
hoping
the-
that by
one of
doing
the
this, we
things-
can. I'm sorry, Dominic.
That's okay. One of the things that we talked about with what they're trying to do as a board is to try to work closer with the sustainability board. So there have been a lot of people that have wanted to be on the sustainability board, and I think if we get the information out there that some of the things that they're looking to do are going to fit into the niche of some of the people that really wanted to get on the sustainability board. So I think the direction that they're moving in is going to be beneficial to them getting members. And they put, I have to admit, you know, between you and Nancy, you guys did a great job of putting a lot of information together and getting with Courtney and I. You know, they had at least 3 workshop meetings that we did before we got with Courtney to go over all of this before it came to council. So there's been a lot of thought into this.
One thing, going piggyback on what you said, we've had a lot of people that come to sustainability board that we can't put on because we're full.
Right.
So if they're going to start working closely together, maybe we go back and look at some of those applicants if we haven't used them already, and see if we can tell them, you know, the face of the board's changing, it's going to be more towards the sustainability practices, and see if we can get, they came forward to be on a board to help the city, so let's see if we can maybe use them.
Okay.
Just, Kay, just one follow-up question. There's no problems, I know these people dropped off because of illness, but there's no problems with the date or day and time that you have the
Well,
meetings?
that's another thing that I was hoping to do is move our meetings. They're Friday mornings, which
Right, 9 o'clock.
limits who can be on the board, and I was
Right.
hoping to have it, I just didn't know who to approach with this, to move it to an evening where we can get, you know, people that are working that can't take off on a Friday. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, no, do you have, I mean, are there, well, I'll let the mayor, go ahead, good.
No, I agree with the David Schechter rule. Sorry, Mayor. You know, we have most meetings start at 7 o'clock in the city. So whether we have a place to meet because of that, but
We did a preliminary, like, is there even a day? And I think there is. I just wasn't sure who to go through to see if we could switch the time, because that will absolutely affect.
I just, the problems with that are, now we have a clerk staying overtime and adding another night to their meetings.
Okay.
And we have another staff member who's going to have another night meeting. Just to give you an idea, Nick and I had 4 night meetings last week and 3 this week. And, I mean, I could just, you know,
That doesn't
at
count.
some point.
But that doesn't count long doggers, though.
Right. No, it does not.
Okay.
No, those are real meetings.
On this,
That would be just a concern that we have to address, so.
Courtney, can you work with them and try to find that and then come back to us?
Find a better time.
What's the possibility of, and you know, when this board was set up, this was Scotty Culp's board. And Friday morning at 9 o'clock was when Scotty wanted to have the meeting.
Right.
I mean, if we have a meeting at 7 o'clock, whether it be whatever the planning and zoning or whatever meeting, what's the possibility if we're going to have a staff person here anyway that night? We have a meeting let them meet at 6 o'clock or something, and then we can piggyback the meetings together.
That would
and
be
we're
much
not-
more preferable if we did like right before the sustainability board or, and that way, you know, they could even
Oh,
stay
that
for
would
the
be good, yeah.
sustainability board.
Yeah.
So that might be an
That's a
idea.
great idea. I happen to be self-employed, so I'm able to tweak my time,
Yeah.
but not everybody can do that.
All right, Courtney, on that on time, if you'd work with them?
Sure.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Montanaro. Second by Councilman Brimer. Further discussion before I open up for public? Open up for public comment on agenda item 7. Hearing none, back to council. Any further?
No, I love the idea.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm excited.
Lenore?
I'm excited. We're going to do
Councilman
something.
Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item 10, presentation of fiscal year 2017-18 third quarter budget.
Nobody wants to stay for the budget.
Good evening, council, mayor. I don't feel the love in the house tonight.
I was just wondering if you do something to run them all off.
I don't know,
So
I'm
you
not
don't
sure.
have to yourself.
That's not necessarily a bad thing, just saying.
So I'm going to do a quick rundown of the third quarter budget report. This is going to include a few weeks into July. I kind of feel like when we get to the quarter reports, trying to get as much information to you as possible is the best idea. So this actually goes through July 18th, I think is the date that you guys have. So the general fund revenues, I'll just quickly go through those real quick. As you may remember, in May, we did amend the budget. So you've got the original budget that we passed last September, the amended budget that we passed in May. So currently right now, year-to-date actuals, we are at 85% of the budget currently. I did throw in there to let you know that part of those revenues are interfund transfers of $396,610. And then FEMA and insurance proceeds are also included in those revenues at $355,289. I did want to make the point today, we did just actually receive our last monies from FEMA for Hurricane Matthew. The total of that's a little over $230,000 is what we received from them.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yes.
We received 230.
Mm-hmm.
What was our expenditure
About 600.
on that one storm? So
Yeah,
they only did two, okay.
When you include all the additional, the payroll and stuff, like all that stuff comes together, they reimburse as much as they possibly can. I do know that most of that reimbursement was for the debris cleanup. They did do that for Matthew. So, and currently with Irma, they have everything, but we're still sitting still on when we're going to start seeing anything.
Well, I think it's good to
Just a
have
brief
that
update.
information because people need to realize how much it does cost us for a storm event.
Yes, cost a lot. So we're still crossing our fingers here,
Yes.
get through a few more months. So the general fund expenditures I've outlined here, the purple bar is the amended budget, the turquoise bluish bar is where we are year to date, and then I put down at the bottom the percentage of the budget. So each of the departments are still under 100%. We do have a little over a month and a half left of the rest of the fiscal year, so hopefully we will continue to stay on target where we're at. And the current net position for the general fund, we have $611,949 more in revenue over expenditures currently. The community service funds, I put them all together to kind of just give you a brief update on each of the funds, the revenues, the expenditures, where we're going to end up currently with their net position, and then at the very bottom, the net fund balance is where their fund balance is going to be at the end of the fiscal year once all that pushes together.
Brittany, why is the recycling fund
In the negative?
in the negative?
So one of the things that came out of the recycling fund that was an unbudgeted item was the sand testing. And we are working on where we're going to pull the money for the water well testing, because those were both two things that were unbudgeted items.
Okay.
So that's the reason for that.
Thank you.
We'll amend it by the end of the year.
Yes, of course, it's just that's where it is currently, so. Stormwater revenue, we received a little over $500,000. That is 97% of the stormwater utility fund revenue has been received. The only other revenue to be received in the stormwater fund this year is all grant related, which obviously has correlated expenditures to go with it. So the next slide is going to show you the detail of the stormwater fund, so you have that information. The Law Enforcement Trust Fund is not a fund that we actually budget, and I'm not sure that I had updated you guys in the second quarter, so I wanted to throw a slide in here for the third quarter to show you. The total revenue is a little over $1,400. Total expenditures were $8,600, which puts the net position at a negative 71. So the net fund balance at the very end, though, is still $13,273.
I have a quick question. Is this the fund that has the donation put into it?
No, this is the fund for the forfeitures.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Which we have to keep separate.
Correct, and can only be spent on certain things, so that comes into play. The Community Redevelopment Trust Fund, we have received 100% of the revenues in this fund. We've only expended 55% of the budget. Again, we're going to get to the details of it. There's not a lot left to be spent in this fund, so hopefully we will continue where we're at, so we'll be able to send some money back to the county, and we'll be able to send 65% of it back to our general fund. the capital assets fund, before I get too far into it, just understand that the loan consolidation that we just did a month and a half ago, I guess, where we consolidated 2 of the loans and we're saving the interest, that information was not in our amended budget because we did that in May. So these numbers kind of are like way over where we're supposed to be. So I just want to make that comment before you guys see the detail of this, so that way you understand that. So, but currently though, year to date, we've brought in 1.5 and we've spent 2.1, and we've talked about some of those unfunded budgeted items that we had, the DRS air conditioner, the football lights were a little bit more than anticipated, so that's where those things are falling out into. And I think if you remember on the amended budget, we are going to be taking some monies from the fund balance in order to balance this fund out this year. Our health insurance fund is still currently right on schedule. The plan for this was always supposed to, revenues and expenditures are supposed to balance out, and that is what's currently happening. And that's it. That's a very quick rundown.
Brittany, thank you so very much. And also your slides and all the stuff that you give us, paperwork, is great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so easy to read, and thank you for taking that time.
Very welcome.
Mark, question?
Just one question, it's not for Brittany, it's more or less for Courtney. Just kind of, you haven't been there many times with the hurricanes as all of us on council have been. I think you guys do a tremendous job with that thing. But, you know, Frank kind of hit on what we've gotten reimbursed and what we're not getting reimbursed. If I was a citizen sitting out in the audience, one thing I might ask you at some point is, how do you set a policy for who stays and who goes, meaning on the fire department, on the police department, not like everybody stays, you know, whatever procedure you have, because people who are financially focused are going to say it was a category whatever, and you have everybody stay, and then on the other one, nobody stayed, or whatever. You know, there should be something that you can answer that question of how do you determine who stays and who doesn't, just from a cost standpoint.
Yeah, that's debatable. It depends on the kind of the level of service that people want. So if people want a 911 response during the storm, we have to keep enough people over here because they can't drive over the bridge. So they stay at the fire department. After the storm is over, we have to have all the police on deck because there's no way, the fear of looting and not having electricity, if residents don't see our police cars driving up and down the road, they get very nervous. And just having that there, you know, basically keeps people, we have very little crime after hurricanes, largely because they know that we're out and about.
And I think that's all a good answer, because we had a couple fires too that would have gone wild if we hadn't been here. So I just wanted to kind of hear you say that we need to keep these people.
Administratively, the only people that stay is me. All the rest of the staff administratively goes home. Then Public Works will stay until the bitter end that they can, that don't have to drive over the bridge, to clean out storm drains, and then they end up going home.
Okay.
So.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Just on page 6, banking fees, is that a typo?
The 20,000?
Yeah.
So originally, we wouldn't have done the loan consolidation, but that loan consolidation consisted of $20,000 worth of banking fees to do that project. So we got the money, like
I'm looking at the percentage fee.
20,000%.
Look at your percentage figure on page 6.
I think as we amended the budget to
Yeah,
$100.
I think that's just a typo.
It very well could be.
I figured if you're going to put this in for the official record.
Oh.
That's a good catch.
Yes, I will fix that.
I just saw that, yeah.
Oh, right. That's funny. That says something about banking fees, though.
Yeah, really, when I saw that, I was like, talk about usury.
Right.
Okay. Brittany, thank you. At this time, open up for public comment on agenda item 10. Hearing none, back to council. This is just for information purposes, so staff, thank you. Moving on to agenda item 11, remember on the 9th of August, 6:30, Montecito, okay, for town hall meetings.
Are we, when we do these, the way we've done them in the past, everybody spoke, are we doing it different now?
No, you guys, we're preparing your talking points right now.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we should be giving them to you by Monday or Tuesday.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Moving on, agenda item 12, city council appointments to boards. We have a reappointment.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Nancy Donahue to the Beautification Board with a term ending 9/2/2021, and to reappoint Donnie Torek to the General Employee Pension Board of Trustees, term ending 9/2/2021.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Montanaro.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Osmer. Further discussion? Lenore?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, thank you. Okay, new appointments?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Lori Hayes to the Library Board and Marianne Reese to the Library Board as well.
There's only one.
No, oh, there's only one?
Let me ask
I
you-
thought we had multiple things open.
Is there an alternate member?
Yeah, there's an alternate.
There's just one primary member open on that.
Currently,
There's an alternate.
Carol Lake just is end today. She resigned, she's not going forward, so her position is now open.
Carol Robichuk?
No, Carol Lake, Lee?
I just saw a whole
Okay.
bunch of openings.
So therefore, there's a position opening.
There is one primary position open.
Okay, so that's, so the one that
Oh, I
resigned
was thinking of the
today,
Beautification Board, sorry.
right, and that's that's what made that slot available. This wasn't a second. Okay.
Okay.
So what we did before is whoever we had as an alternate, we moved them up to a primary position. That's what we did the last go around.
Wasn't there somebody we interviewed, though, and you were talking about, is this her?
Yes, that
Is this the second
Reese-
time we've oh, that was Mary Ann Reese.
Right,
Mary Ann
we
Reese
told
is the
her
one we-
right, we had two interviews that night. We had a reappointment that night in the interview. And that was, we also discussed, so I'm just bringing this out, that when the next one came available, we already had interviewed her, so,
She had the master's in education from
Yes.
New York, moved down here.
so.
Right, and
I'm
then
just-
there may be another position come up in October. It's a possibility because there's another term is going to end on, so it just depends on whether they want reappointed or if they're done. Then that would make that difference.
Okay, so,
Can I amend my thing then? Okay, so
was there a second on that?
No.
Okay, thank you.
okay. I'd like well, I guess you guys will decide, but I think personally, Mary Ann, since she applied, and I remember being I really liked her, and not saying anything against Lori Hayes, but we did kind of tell her we were gonna, I feel like so I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mary Ann Reese to the Library Board and
Okay. I have a motion by Councilman Gibson.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Osmer. Further discussion?
So the question is, do we make someone who's an alternate, do we move them up to a primary and then make Mary Ann a new alternate?
We don't have the Library Board sheet in here, so I don't know who the alternate is.
The alternates for the library board are Marjorie Soliday and Arlene Massey.
And Arlene's the one we just appointed last time, so.
Okay.
Marjorie's been there since 2016.
Okay.
Right.
She would be the longer-term alternate.
But we also need to ask that person, do they want to become a primary member? The alternate. If the alternate didn't.
And I think she did. I talked to her at the last library board meeting. We had that discussion because they asked me that specifically.
Right.
Right.
So.
Do we amend again? Okay. I would like to amend again my motion to appoint Mary Ann Reese as an alternate to the Library Board and then
Elevate Marjorie Soliday.
and make Marjorie Soliday the primary member.
Okay, thank you, Mindy. I have a motion by Councilman Gibson.
And I'll second.
Second by Councilman Osmer. Further discussion? Lenore?
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 13, approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the July 18th regular meeting as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilman Osmer. Approve the minutes. Further? Hearing none, Lenore?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Before we go, which we'll go quick, Courtney and your staff, first off, thank you for your work you're doing on this, the water issue. I know you're taxed on this and the number of phone calls and now, the internet and so forth, but great job. Thank you for keeping us connected. And staff, thank you.
One, just to let council know, Helen Miller, who is the regional director for Senator Nelson, and I and Courtney met today. Courtney was in between interviews, but Ms. Miller was not even really aware of the water issue thing, but she's now got it on her radar, so Senator Nelson's office is going to be aware that this is even going on. So she was very receptive to wanting to get involved. She took Barbara Arthur's place in Senator Nelson's office. So I encouraged her to come to the Space Coast League of Cities board meetings because that's where she can kind of get a tune of what's going on in Brevard County. And she seemed to be very receptive to want to get involved. So it's great that we have another advocate who's out there that we can reach out to when we have issues.
Yeah, I like that, but I also want to make sure we have a little protocol that we go to the base first. What I don't really want to happen is go over the base and tell everybody, and then they get bombarded and go, well, why didn't you guys come to us and at least include us? So I think with your meeting and stuff tomorrow, I think we make the connection there, and then we can proceed on.
Oh, we weren't looking for.
No, but I'm saying, but to them, I think how they might feel, because when this first started, one of the things that happened was the general was, Courtney said, looking for me to talk to me on it because they want to get this thing blown out. So he's very, as you know, he's very community-minded.
They've been communicative, and
Right.
we, with the South Housing, there was some, sometimes people use issues like this to further their own political agenda, unfortunately, and that's what's happening with the complaints about the South Housing area and stopping development and so on. But we made it clear that these environmental tests have been completed. Unfortunately, they're 20 years old, so we didn't have them anymore, but the base did. And they sent them all to us within a matter of 24 hours without questions asked. So they've been very forthcoming with all the information that we've requested.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, I just want to clarify, we were not looking for them to do anything. I just was making them aware. She's looking to get more involved in Brevard County, is what she's looking for.
Good.
And that was why she called.
She was very nice.
Initially.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a great situation for us.
I just want to echo the mayor's comments. Thanks for all the work on this. I know you've been hard at it, and we appreciate it very much, so thank you.
Thank you. All right, everyone, thank you very much. Meeting's adjourned.
We still have all our rooms.